idea how I would build it, but I knew that I wanted the mechanism to be subservient visually. It needed, in a theatrical point of way, the mechanism needed to be beneath the stone. So I decided I would support the stone on an axle and design the mechanism so that everything had to rotate around the axle, which caused many problems, and it was kind of an engineering challenge, but it just needed to be that way. And the first step was to make little chairs and to move them with my hands. So I was the first puppeteer in that sense, playing with the gesture to see what felt right. And then once that was understood, then slowly the mechanism began to evolve. It's like 1 inch tall, it's a tiny chair. And in many ways, I would say that this is very much a prayer wheel for me, because it was in some ways a record of my own meditation, my own circular meditation. I also, it's clearly, I'm very connected with the world of puppetry too. I did spend some time at UNH doing puppet shows in the summer. I would travel around on this little truck with a few other puppeteers, and we would do puppet shows for kids all over the state. And I had a real significant moment when I was in college, and a group of us went down to the puppet show place in Boston. And there was a puppeteer named Bruce Schwartz who was performing with a rod puppet. And he was performing the little match girl. And it was really transfixing, because he was sitting there at a table, and of course you could see him, and he was just wearing black, but he was just sitting there. And the rod puppet, which you control with one hand controls the head, and the other hand controls the two hands. He had such beautiful control over this puppet that he disappeared. He was not there, and the entire focus was on this little match girl. So that was a beautiful lesson in terms of what happens when you have focus. Now with all my machines, with this one in particular, there's the subject, and the working with the chair in the beginning. This is a video, it'll work when I show you, which is not always the case. But I was playing with elements on a computer screen in a program that could give me virtual reality objects. So I was able to set up a little piston in a virtual world, and I had a flat object that had a weight, and I gave it a random shape, and I started to make this piston go up and down and cause this virtual object to be bouncing on top of this piston. And then again, I was transfixed by watching this little thing bouncing on in very random ways. Then remembering, oh yeah, I used to watch these little balls, and it was kind of a reflection of that. I never get tired watching it, because I never know what it's going to do. It's like it has the potential of making beautiful spins in one direction, and then other spins in the reverse direction. So it's always kind of surprising me. But that drawing at the beginning was first imagined actually as a little wire machine. And then as I got into the building of it, I realized that I needed to use the mass of the World Sculpture Racing Society. And their whole thing was to build sculptures that could be raced on the street. So this was the first racing sculpture. Decided that I would make a piece that would talk back to myself. So I cast my hand. Now, there's a platter, and it has there are three cans. The cans are for the X, Y, and Z axis, and they translate to the hand that's literally writing on a card as it gets pushed down the street. Well, the hand is encoded to write faster. So, of course, the faster I run, the faster it's going to write the word faster. So it's like this like talking back machine. And I thought, oh, I'll win all the races because the machine will be spurring me on and I'll be just going faster.